All
We're
right,
live?
Hulkamania fans, we are live.
Hulkamania is running wild.
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah. So that's Macho Man, dude. You ruined it. So
Okay, well, you know.
I'm super excited. I want to give a special thanks to Q in the studio, K-Var. Everyone head over to kvar.com. We're in the K-Var studios. I want to thank everybody here. I am really excited about this guest today. So we formed a friendship and a relationship through a mutual friend, and not something I take lightly. Of course, you know, I have the utmost respect for a lot of the guys, as everybody knows, that are behind the scenes doing what we do. And I like to think of this guy as one of the guys that's operating at a higher level that not everybody can fully understand and appreciate, but I do. The reason I do is because I've had guests in like Bruce Cardenas from Quest and other guests that they're the guys making it happen for the people out there. And I can appreciate that because in the gun industry, that's something I've prided myself on. So I super appreciate what this guy does behind the scenes and now what he's doing and putting his story out there in the front of the house. I want to thank Hans from Monster Energy for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So I want to dive right in, as we always do, to your story and kind of how you got here from San Diego and how you kind of got to this place that you're at in life as the guy to go to in that energy drink market.
Well, I mean, I started in action sports, which is, you know, primarily skateboarding, surfing, motocross, the alternative world of sports that was, you know, for many years not looked upon, you know, favorably by any companies or any markets. But I grew up skateboarding and surfing in San Diego, California. So naturally, you know, as I was looking to see what I was going to do with my career moving forward after school, I jumped into the action sports market in which I worked for numerous brands. But one of the mainstay brands I was at for a long time was a company called Osiris Shoes, in which I was there for close to 18 years. And through Osiris Shoes, I, you know, started working with and developing relationships with other brands that I now currently work with and continue to build and brand build for.
You know, I've wanted to ask you this, and I want to ask you it on air because it's a question, Bruce and I. What goes into brand building the most that people don't see? How important are relationships, and what goes into it behind the scenes? Because I have such a deep appreciation for what you're doing, and I know Bruce would too. What do you do that you feel people never see?
Look, obviously, with the digital age and social media, people see the story that they want to see, right? So they see you with athletes, they see you with people that, you know, they feel are you know, like they're heroes or they're notable celebrities. Yeah. And so what I do and what's being done that people don't get to see is we make the magic happen, and that's really putting people with brands and then utilizing those people to build a story behind not only their personal brand but with the brand that they're representing. And for the last, you know, 20 some years of my career, I've taken the approach of doing everything hands-on, from shooting the photos myself to, you know, collaborating with different brands for different athletes, obviously negotiating all the deals for the brands that I work for, and then, you know, making sure that the athletes uphold their end on the bargain. And then we do a lot of cross promotion with the retailers and the people that support the brands that these athletes are representing. So really what brand building is getting, you know, multiple people. It's, you know, whether it's an athlete or some sort of nowadays they're influencers, you know, and having, you know, them utilize the brand that you're selling or you're promoting and getting it out there properly. And I help them do that. I show them the way of creating the content. I show them the way of, you know, explaining what the content, you know, what the brand is, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, just coaching them through the process so that we can maximize the full result of utilizing them as a endorser of the brand.
Do you find it hard, and this is a question, a lot of guys maybe aspiring to be in your shoes or be in the lifestyle. Do you find it hard with some brands articulating that to the owners?
Well, yes and no. I mean, for many years, I did it was a classic working for one company, and we all worked together from the marketing and the sales side to figure out what products we were going to launch and who was going to be responsible for what. And when it came to the marketing aspect of it, like which athletes would be pushing that product or how we were going to get it out. Now, I represent multiple brands, so they know what they're getting when they sign up with me. They know that they're going to get the network and they're going to get the access that I have, and they're also going to get all the collaborative materials that I will provide to make sure that these athletes go and represent these brands properly, so that they could get fully maximized. And there's actually quantifiable results from them paying out whatever they pay out to the athlete.
Yeah, that's your story. So brings home a lot of stuff to me. I started out working with multiple companies in the tactical industry. Social media was new; it was starting out. Nobody really knew what it was, when it was coming to be. And like you said, you start out a little bit as a photographer, a little bit as a video guy. You're kind of feeling out what Facebook's all about. You're feeling out what Instagram's all about. And being in my business, you're shunned from the beginning because, similar to being in the extreme sports, it's shooting.
Yeah.
So being in the 2A community and being in that business, everybody right away says, "Oh God, it's a gun," And I remember back in the day posting, me shooting a gun or me holding a gun, and people are like, "Oh my God, like this is crazy! Like nobody, it's like you can't be doing that." Just like I'm sure you went through with skateboarding and different sports where it's like somebody's in a public place and, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this."
Yeah, I mean, a majority of the stuff that we used to do was all based around,
Semi-illegal activity.
It was all illegal. Yeah. I mean, it was we were spending enormous amounts of money touring the world to find illegal places to go skateboard. And that's what the allure was, though, and that's what made it cool, was the fact that we basically were going out and, we had these athletes skateboarding at spots that were you're not supposed to be skateboarding at. There's a lot of security there. And they would go and they would have a very limited amount of time to get something done. And when they would do that, that's the spectacle. That's what made it cool, and that's what actually propelled the sport to what it was. It was very, it was very energetic, and it was exciting to see somebody have a very short window to go and try to jump, ollie down a 20 stair that they're running from,
right.
Security guard, and we're all setting up, like I'm setting up my camera, back in those days, when I was shooting film and we got a videographer there, we all, we're talking about like strike force going in, getting it done, leaving. But if you get the shot, those were the days again that this was all publication based. So you knew that you were going to get a cover, you knew that you were going to get a double page spread, you knew something big was going to come out of it. So it was worth it.
Yeah, and I remember for us, when I got in Recoil, and Tony and I were in Recoil, we were in like one of the same issues, and I remember I was like, I made it, but I'm like, nobody reads it,
Yeah.
It's like it was dying.
Yeah.
It was a dying form.
Yeah.
But that was for us, like, still coming from that generation, it was like you made it. It's crazy how, certain things lead you to certain things. And you and I can definitely talk about this with you at length. You go from, the skateboarding, the extreme sports, the sneaker business, the shoe business, and then that leads into other things like jiu-jitsu and different things we're passionate about. I feel like in that culture in San Diego, the skateboarding and the jiu-jitsu almost go hand in hand.
Yeah. Nowadays, when I first started, they didn't, it was very separate, and anything that had anything to do with combat or violence amongst another, which is insane if you really think about it now, because skateboarders were like the antithesis of being like these anarchy kids running around.
I feel like Jeremiah Vance is another one.
But it was just in the late 90s, early 2000s, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. So I started doing it. I started training Thai boxing and jiu-jitsu because I was over being around skateboarding so
Right.
much, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so I started doing that, and then I started competing, and then I got really deep into it, and then I just made a decision I was the vice president of marketing for our brand. I was like, you know what, I'm going to sponsor Dean Litster, who is a world class jiu-jitsu practitioner slash coach slash fighter. Like I was training under him. He was making the jump from fighting in King of the Cage to Pride at the time. We were all like, our team was very tight, and that team was Dean Litster and Jocko Willenick and we had a couple other team guys down there that all trained together, and those guys were doing their thing. They were the team guys were going out and doing their work, and I was doing a whole different line of work from a different place. But we all congregated around the mat and became very close. So I sponsored Dean for a couple fights, and I saw some results that I didn't think was gonna happen, and it was actually somewhat positive. So I continued on working in that direction, which ultimately ended up making me go and start switching into a different field from action sports.
It's crazy how the mat brings people together in some ways, because you just kind of go into it with one, notion, thinking like, oh, there's going to be all these tough guys and everyone's trying to be tough.
Yeah.
But it really is a brotherhood there when you get there. And I've formed lifelong friendships, in that space. And a lot of those folks have been with you for a long time, and you have relationships that just transcend everything, and they just stay with you, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's one of the things I didn't expect coming out of mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and that field, just the camaraderie that comes with it, and how much love there really is.
Yeah, you're spending a lot of time, with other people that you
trust.
You trust them. Obviously the goal is to submit and hurt them, but at the same time, like, the last thing you want to do is injure them to the point where they can't train anymore. So there's a definite trust that has to go into, having and picking good training partners, and the ones that you stay with for years and years and years. Obviously, there's a different synergy amongst them too.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't forget, who has been with you from that period, and who you could trust, and who you could trust with your body. That's really one of the biggest things. I, really admire your path and kind of where you came from, and what you've done and what you've been able to do, bringing brands together. And I have the most admiration for guys that are able to see the weaving of those different worlds and see how those different worlds can play into each other. It's really something, and I know a lot of guys struggle with it. I had, Jason in here from Microtech Knives. He was explaining, the struggle to bridge the gap between the knife world, guys in fitness, guys in these different areas. What have you seen that's been helpful to you to bridge that gap and explaining it to owners and presidents of marketing divisions? How do you get that message across that, like, look, we want to get money from everybody, just not one community?
Results. You know what I mean? Like, look, and nobody's. It's very, very rare that you're going to just start a company because you're so passionate, you don't want to make any money, and you want to keep it one way, and that's it. Obviously there are companies like that, but realistically, everyone's in business to somewhat will monetize an object that they're trying to sell and market, and they want to, it's a business. You want to make money, so to do that, for me, it's always been about results, showing the metrics, showing the results. Nowadays you could have visual insights on about anything. Like, everything's visible. There's transparency amongst anything that you're doing out there that you're gonna like put together as far as a social media plan or something, right? So what I do now, if and this has happened, if I'm working with companies or if I'm working with skeptical individuals that aren't certain on how something's going to work, or they don't know if it's going to be venturing into a place or a path that, like,
They don't see the pathing.
That may not be traditionally where the brain used to be. I'll put together things, very low risk things, so that they could see, and I'll guide them through there. I'll walk them through, like, hey, look, okay, so for instance, say mixed martial arts. Say you're a company and you've been doing only I'm just going to use this for example. You've only been doing CrossFit, right? And you've only done it. You didn't want to venture outside of CrossFit just because you felt that if you ventured outside of CrossFit, you're going to lose your core and your base customer because you're doing something different. Well, what I would do is I wouldn't never abandon the root of the the people and the
base
and the base that got you there. I would just slowly integrate people and new things into what's pre-existing. And I'll give you an example of how that's worked recently with Monster Energy, for instance. Is that as I run the combat sports division, which is comprised of 40 different athletes, the best athletes in the world when it comes to mixed martial arts, from Conor McGregor, Rampage Jackson, John Jones, Daniel Cormier. We have the best team, undoubtedly, like that's ever been built in any MMA, sporting, competition team. There's nothing better than the Monster Energy team. Well, recently, I've started including and adding people outside of mixed martial arts, which would be guys like Flex Lewis, guys like Tony, Real World Tactical, different people that aren't traditionally involved in any, real competition aspect of mixed martial arts, but obviously admire, may do some training within, and definitely have associations with it, So we've also got Big Boy from the Strength Cartel. Like these three guys, all three of them, they all fit unique positions in the athletic and sporting community that I believe all kind of like they all have somewhat of a symbiotic relationship. And so as I added one of them, I'll add them on, and I'm not going to put it so much in everyone's face to the point where people are confused and asking if we're switching gears, but I'll put it out there enough to where they're associated with the other athletes that are already on board. So I'll bring them to events. I'll bring them to training. I'll bring them and make them not only feel included, but I'll also have them start, kind of like working with these other athletes in posts or different things to show that there's a definite, association.
Linkage. It's always, it's funny because I was doing the same thing in shooting. I was bringing in these bodybuilders, guys like Branch Warren, other people into shooting, but it was always there. Mm-hmm. They were always passionate about it. They were hunters. They were outdoorsmen. They were doing all these things. Like, a lot of people didn't realize the love they had for that sport, maybe behind the scenes, but they were successful at the particular sport that they were passionate about. And I would explain to people, and I would sit in these boardrooms a lot like you, and they'd be like, well, what are we doing here? Why are we having bodybuilders come into shooting? And I said, they were always there.
Yeah, not only are they always there, but so the people that follow them, there's a huge demographic of people that not only follow them, but they are also there too, and they're also spending money, and they're also, they may be fitting in what you think is a whole other demographic, but realistically, you could get to them faster, you could get to them more effectively, and you could also, you could start infiltrating multiple categories and industries by just having a couple of people included, showing that that you actually support and you have some admiration for what these other guys do. And that's the key, is that if you could link those together and you could do it in a way that it doesn't look contrived and it doesn't look like you're spending.
Forced.
Yeah, you're not like all of a sudden, you're not going out and like throwing Tiger Woods on the team and saying, oh yeah, he's this new advocate of ours, and you've never seen him do anything within this realm ever, and the people that are associated with him wouldn't actually be the same people that you would want to be associated with your band, because they just don't do anything. Not saying that it couldn't work. I'm just saying that's much harder. That's a harder play, than having people that that are in a different industry, that have done different things, but have you being a marketer, understand that they actually have interest, and they have always had interest in the products that you produce.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I don't want this to turn into a TEDx marketing deal. Yeah. But I think people do want to know. I think they want to kind of understand the insights, because you have a lot going on. I mean, people see Flex, they see Tony, they see Quentin, they see all that stuff out there that you're doing, especially with CBDMD and all that stuff. So it's important to talk about. But I think the linkage is there, and I think people are starting to see it. You still have the 50, 60-something old-timers that they have a hard time grasping. But the way I explain it to them, I say, do you think Coca-Cola wants the money from just Coca-Cola drinkers, or do they want it from everybody? Well, let me show you all the brands that, it's explaining that link.
Look, I mean, things are cyclical, and we all know this, is that we go through every 30, 40, 50, whatever, how many years, there's going to be some major changes. And so, before the digital social media marketing age was heavily print and commercial advertisements on, terrestrial TV. So the people that were controlling the ad budgets at that point in time from the 70s to the, I would say, early 2000s, it was very hard for them to embrace how marketing has changed, because they don't look at it as real marketing, and they definitely 100% don't look at it as professional marketing. So that's always a challenge, and it's been a challenge for me for numerous reasons, because if you told somebody from that age demographic that has only done things that way, that like there are people on YouTube right now, like, and if you say, yeah, this person is a YouTube star, they'll look at it and go like, what is a YouTube star? Mm-hmm. Like, what does that even mean?
I sat in a meeting just the other day, and I said, if you think we're ahead, we're not. There is a kid opening presents on YouTube right now.
Oh yeah,
$8 million a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Opening presents.
My kid watches that kid, and so I couldn't believe it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. He opens presents, and he opens packages, and he has a ton of companies that send him stuff because of this, because they understand the visibility that he gets just from the people that he's got his subscription base to. But so, from a classical standpoint, like, would somebody that had never done that had always had an ad budget and in whatever publication go, yeah, we'll dedicate $20,000 and start utilizing people like this? Absolutely not, because they look at that like, this doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. I had, in the final days of our footwear business, we had the business for a very long time, and the actual thing that ended up the demise of the brand was the separation between what and where marketing would go. And one of the last things that was a huge component and issue that I was dealing with is I had a former he was a partner of the brand that basically told me, and I'm saying this verbatim, that I didn't know anything about social media, that I was doing it wrong, and that it needed to be done in a different way, and that that I should spend more time writing out very long stories on social media and less about doing quick clips and the photos that I was doing. I mean, you're talking about a guy that is from a different world. I mean, he at one point in time, he was a very successful pro skateboarder, but he was not in any way understanding how this part worked.
Yeah. He wanted like the J. Biederman catalog.
Well, he just thought that like if I put up a picture of a shoe, right, I should have like I should flood that shoe with 10 different photos within one post, right, and not like when I say like a carousel, but like just like multiple like you would do in an old print ad, like you'd be like 10 photos on one. I mean, like so completely just cluttered that it would work in a 80s catalog that went out with CCS, years ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. But now that doesn't work for us. And, there's absolutely no retention when it comes to people reading. So if you think that like that you're going to get some, like a kid between the age of, 12 to 18 to read 14 paragraphs on a shoe on descriptions and features and functions, it's just not going to happen.
Oh, hell no.
And so we had a it was a continuous battle of how he believed social media should go and how I know it was supposed to go. And hence that's the difference, is that, like you could see it not only, I mean, our personal social medias became the ones that play. And obviously I smoke them on my personal smoke on social media.
I think it's more important to and I think what you're getting at is where it's going. And that's what I spend a lot of time, I say, look, this is where it's going. And I use comparisons like Blockbuster Video having an opportunity to buy Netflix at one point.
Sure.
And turning it down. And in turning it down, that CEO went down as one of the biggest buffoons in all of any industry. Biggest missed opportunity. Netflix came to him hat
Yeah,
in
but could
hand.
you blame him? See, this is the thing. Can you really blame a person that actually, like I do believe this is that I think that, like, from a business perspective, yes, you need to be able to trust and go off of what your professionals that you hire are saying. But, again, when it gets transitional to the point when this guy, he took the gamble and said no, right? But he just obviously wasn't thinking, because he was outside of that realm of what streaming was.
Could I blame him is a good question. The answer I say is yes, and I'll tell you why. I know hindsight's 20/20, but I say this: if you're waiting for things to happen, it's too late. And I think what he was betting on was inferior technology lasting. What he should have, as a CEO, what he should have had the foresight to see is, like you said, all things are cyclical and they change. Hardware changes. Q knows that better than anybody producing the show. Hardware changes all the time. And if he was betting on DVD players or even if he should have seen that VHSs died, CDs were going to die, the next evolution was going to be streaming in some capacity. And at the very least made at least a minimal bet in that space. And not making any bet in that space doomed not only his company, but all the employees that relied on a paycheck from that company.
Yeah, but I mean, again, the hard part about business, and the hard part that's always going to remain, is that, and I don't, and have no idea who upper management at Blockbuster was. I don't know who the board was. I don't know who was overseeing the decisions that were being made on how and what to do, and why. They look at it like, I'm certain, and think of it from this perspective, is that they more than likely had so much money invested in the production of, VHS tapes, the production of everything in between to make the product that they had for standalone brick and mortar stores. So now, you're going to have some upper executives going, well, look, we're going to end up losing a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of jobs lost. We're going to be shutting this down. We're going to be doing this, full well not realizing and knowing that was going to happen no matter what. So that president, is now faced with this uncomfortable decision of saying, do I bet on streaming and, potentially boot out a lot of people that have worked with us for years? Because that's another thing, is that I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen at numerous companies that I've been a part of, where you get guys that are, they started a brand when they're whatever in their mid 30s. They start, there's some tenure behind them. Now they're in mid 50s. Now they're in their 60s. They're still at the brand, and they're in high-ranking positions. And those guys are now becoming obsolete, because not only do they have workforces below them that are completely understanding where the things are going, but they're just not doing the work anymore. So they don't want to believe that there's these new things that are happening. So they're going to keep it they're going to keep it on that train as long as they can, until they either retire or until ultimately they get fired. And I could easily say that, just seeing this in my industry and seeing the industry that I've in multiple industries I've been a part of, that's a huge issue. And that's where things lie, is that you get a lot of people that are in these upper management positions.
Tunnel vision.
Well, they just don't want to affect others in that same spot. So they're willing to not only just slow play things, but they're not thinking about how they should be aggressively changing up their model fast, so that they could be competing with new brands that are coming up.
I think the hard part is no one could have predicted that boom into streaming and handheld devices. The iPhone changed the whole game.
But really though, think about it. I'm certain you had LimeWire at one point in time, and like for me, it's like I got very. The moment I figured out how data was going to be transferred, through a telephone wire in the 90s, how I saw data transferred through then, and I had my initial email account set up, and then I went on America Online, all these different systems that allow data to be systematically put in front of me at a rate that would be far superior than me trying to get a catalog through the mail. There was a point where now, especially today, that we know that things are still rapidly moving at a rate that in about a year, we're going to be sitting here talking about something else going, dude, did you see what's coming out next? And it's not going to be that surprising.
Yeah, I just predict. I've said it before in media, and that we're gonna eventually. You'll have a TV, as we know it today, but eventually marketing will lead to you'll get like a ping on your watch. There'll be a commercial playing, and it'll say, "Do you want to buy this now?" Or a ping on your phone.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it right now.
I mean,
I mean, think about it. I mean, like Amazon gives you alerts any single time I could be thinking, being like, I could think about something and I could barely Google it or barely put it into any kind of search engine, and next thing you know, it's the algorithm has been picked up and it's already certainly like sending me different things that like could potentially be something that I want to buy.
Q had that happen the other day. There were some. Those pet websites where the men take off their clothes popped up on his computer.
Then he got flooded. Then he's never going to stop right now.
I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
He thinks there's alien technology in there. Speaking of the aliens.
Because there is. Because there is. I'm glad you just said that.
Speaking of the
aliens.
Of
course there is.
We have to get to this.
Yeah.
I was banned.
Shit.
I want to talk about this.
Yes.
I was banned from I wanted to post a video that was sent to me by Tony of you. I was told not to.
Of me?
I was sequestered.
Oh.
And I want to get into this because Jay was on here and he had some points. And we still we still have the alien Area 51 raid fast approaching everybody.
Oh, well, that's just
and I want to know where Han sits on this.
Well, I mean, the raid is. I mean, come on. Like, look. I mean, I'm looking at a guy right now in front of me with a weapon that will pretty much take that raid out in 2 seconds if they decided to go anywhere around there. So
we're ready to go.
I think that the raid, is gonna probably not gonna work out in anyone's favor, just because think about how long they've kept people out of there and what they've done in that place for so many years.
Well, we've researched it deeply, and it's like 15 miles from the fence. So I don't know who's making that fucking walk. In the desert.
I mean, look, realistically is who's going to get down to the underground railroads. That's where you're going to find what you really want to find.
Now,
you want to get into those networks, to the underground railroads down there. That's where everything is located.
Here's the $1 million question: are there aliens there?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if aliens are actually there still. That would be a little too easy if you ask me. But I think that what is there, and I believe, is that there is definite technology that has either been shared or they're working on to figure out how to communicate better, or they are communicating currently with them. But you got to look at it from like, we would be you have to be so arrogant as a species to believe that we're the only species like this out there, out of this multiple universes, and in all these different galaxies. There's just one, and because I'm not trying to. You're giving me this weird look that I'm actually like trying to figure out.
I'm absorbing this.
So think of it like this. Look. I mean, realistically, through the years, I mean, humans have been around for many, 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 many years, and I'm not going to try to make this a theological debate in any way possible. But I will say this: is that look, we have iPhones, like you said, right? And we have the technology now to do certain things that, like, 10 years ago, we would never have dreamed of. 50 years ago, they were only in comic books. 100 years ago, I mean, that's Jules Verne. Like, that was just like a couple people thinking that there could potentially, be some sort of technology that would change the scope of how humans interacted in the world was. Now, weirdly, in the last 80 years, things have dramatically increased and technology is jumping at a rate that's just astronomical. How can that happen? How can that just happen? How can new metals be formed, and how can different forms of communication and the internet just miraculously appear, in a very short amount of time, when you had civilizations and different levels of the human race existing for so long, and then within the last 100 years we've got iPhones that can play movies and basically tell us anything we want to know at any time. I'm telling you that it's just, we would be very arrogant as humans to believe that there's just us.
Anytime this topic comes up, it's crazy. My phone starts blowing up. People start asking me questions to ask you, and everybody starts going crazy. For some reason, this hits a nerve with people, and people do get passionate about it, almost theological about it. Now, my thing is this. I tell everybody this, and I'm on the record saying this. I have no doubts that there's alien technology on this planet. You look at the advancements the last 100 years or so, and you have to acknowledge it. There's no question. There's no way we go from a telephone or tapping something and sending Morse code across the universe to where we are today in 100 years, like that, after 5,000 years of dust.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think World War II did some serious advancements to it, but I also think that World War II did some serious discoveries in figuring out how, either where aliens may have been, or how to communicate with them, or what technology was somehow left and figured out how to be utilized at this point. But I mean, there's just a major shift in technology, that has happened in the last 100 years. I mean, too much of a shift, like way too much of a shift. That just it's just like it's going at such a rate that, like, I don't think that any humans could believe that this is happening. I mean, now when you tell people, like, oh yeah, I think in about a year, realistically, there'll probably be a couple flying cars here and there. Like, you can say that now and go, oh yeah, maybe there is, and we know that the technology is there, but it's to say that these are the things that are going to happen is it, and then to see that there's still such a heavily guarded, area that the government still is being very nebulous about and won't really just come out and go, no, this is what it is. It's so highly secretive still, and there's still so many things that are locked up inside of there that nobody is either allowed to talk about or just obviously won't talk about it.
Do you think they walk amongst us?
Oh man, some rowdy Piper shit right there, man.
They live.
There could have been some interbreeding with some aliens at some point in time, and there could be definite alien DNA that has become something that is now part of a new evolved human race. But I mean, look at humans in general, though. Humans have changed dramatically. I mean, obviously with not only technology but the transportation and how people have started to mix with other cultures and mix with different. I mean, I'm a product of it myself. I mean, like it's who would have thought, like I'm European and Polynesian. Like that's a mix that you wouldn't have heard of like 200 years ago. Not as common as it is now.
It's a Cali thing.
It's but it's just there, man. I mean,
it's crazy when you get into this stuff because it causes such a reaction, even a visceral reaction from people, because people are so passionate about it. And I know,
what, in a negative way or in a positive way? Like what? Because I don't know what you're seeing.
I think you get a little bit of both. I
What's-
think some people are passionate that there's no way. There's just no way. They get fired up because they prescribe to the brick and mortar approach,
and social media doesn't exist either.
And exactly. So I'm a little bit of both. I don't think aliens walk amongst us, and I'll say why. Okay? I don't think that they do, for the simple fact that if they did, I think they've landed here. I think technology has been brought here. I think we have access to technology, whether it's via a crash, whether it's via them visiting and communicating. But I believe that they either went back or they're kept underground. They don't necessarily walk amongst us and work amongst us. But I think so much has been downloaded, if you will, that we have used that to have not only technological advancements, but intellectual ones as well. And I think that there are certain people that just operate on a more advanced plane mentally, and they're able to absorb that information and process it in a way that I never could. I just, that's how I feel. I don't know what they look like. I'm not sure where they're keeping them. I'm not sure if it's Area 51 or what's involved with that. But I do believe that there's definitely been alien technology on this planet. Now, how that plays into us politically, how that affects any systemic risk involved, everything else in between, I don't know. but it's an interesting topic, and it goes in 100 directions. As far as aliens being able to come here whenever they please, I don't know what type of defense capabilities have been brought on by our government, what's been done, how that intrigues me.
Yeah, but do you think why would we have to have defense capabilities unless we saw them as a complete threat?
I think there has to be some type of screening. I don't want to get all Men in Black, but there's got to be some type of screening involved with that. There has to be some type of understanding. Okay, if you come here, you can't go and get a sandwich at the local sub.
I just don't think. I think that there's a big misconception on what they are and who they look, what they look like, or how long. I mean, I really do believe that they could have been here for a lot longer than most people think, and there could have been, like I said, there's so many different ways that people could evolve and things could happen, and again, I don't know what they're doing there that they would need to guard it that hard. I mean, as far as like, you're in the business of building weapons. I mean, like, think about this for a second. Like, what would be there that it has to be so secret that there's all these other conspiracies around it, considering the fact that it's just down the street.
So we'll have to go to the raid. Q, put us down. We're going.
Oh, I'm not going to the raid.
He said, I'm not going.
No, I'm not going to the raid. No. I'm gonna. That's the thing, is I'm gonna watch it from my smartphone, and I'm gonna watch everybody else go there, and then just
shot to hell.
Yeah.
You think they'll shoot him, Q?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. I do.
They're gonna kill him dead.
No, they'll shoot a couple of them, and then everybody else will be like, "Oh, fuck this! I ain't going."
Well,
there.
we'll have to. We'll get some Popeyes and we'll watch.
Yeah, I don't see. Actually, I think that everyone would just stand there and not do anything, because that one person that takes that first leap, they get smoked. They'd be, I guess I just don't feel like I want to go in there anymore. Because what are you gonna do? You're gonna run around there and just get in there, and then all of a sudden, where are you gonna go? You're just gonna run up to it. You're gonna run up on the base, like, okay, we're here, guys. Where we go now?
The whole idea is we haven't thought that far ahead.
Yes,
our brain isn't there yet. But I think we can at least make it to the gate.
Well, I think that the people's brains that are there are already on the base.
That's deep.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, why not? I mean, like, if you really want, look at it. If you really wanted to figure out, if you had, I mean, we've known about Area 51 long enough, and as growing up, you're like, you know what? My desire is to figure out what's on Area 51. You just figure out how to do it. You go into you would figure out how and what job it would take to get to be a part of Area 51, and you would go and do it. And then once you did it, you'd be like, all right.
Supposedly they recruit you. Supposedly you got to get like recruited. So maybe, I think you got to be a certain kind of in a certain field. Maybe I have to.
Yeah, but you know what field you need to be in. I mean, like,
thermonuclear.
They're not just recruiting some randoms that definitely don't want to go to Area 51.
That's true.
The joke's on all of us right now.
I think so. I think we gotta do a little more research. We have to go a little deeper. This is deep. Do you want to comment on the Kennedy assassination?
Oh, you want to go there now?
Yeah, let's.
These are his favorite topics.
I'll go.
The
all
Kennedy
day
assassination's
long.
passionate to me. I'm a New Englander, so this is a big deal to me, being from Boston. So
it's a big deal because you like are you, because of the family, or
yeah,
it's
my family. I grew up as a byproduct. My parents were byproducts of the Kennedy generation, so that whole baby boomer generation identified very closely with the Kennedy family. And being from New England and vacationing in Hyannis, the Kennedy family was always at the forefront. So it was always talked about. You read every book, you heard every lore. Similar to what would be considered conspiracy theory, it was household conversation. Was he killed by one gunman?
No.
Was it the mafia?
Potentially. I think it was a combination of people. I think that it was moving. I think the government, and I think that he was moving in a direction that, at that point in time,
Scared a lot of people.
Well, look, he was moving in a direction. His administration was moving in a direction. There was a lot of stuff escalating all over the place, and there's some major movements that were starting up. That were firing up in ways that he was going to fast track a lot of stuff quick. And I think because of that certain time period, it's different than it is now. There's a lot more stuff that you could do now from a cyber perspective that you don't need to assassinate somebody, at all. I mean, actually, but then you didn't have those same outlets. Now, you could you could completely just assassinate somebody online and get rid of them, and basically it's almost worse because they're still around. Yet they can't. They're completely damaged because of what's been done to them online. But with then at that period of time, like when people were getting smoked back then, it's just easier just to get rid of them. So that's just done.
I think he was such a young president, and he was the youngest at the time. He represented such young ideals and such change. Like you said, he represented so much change coming. I mean, he had done so much in a short period of time, and it scared a lot of people. What he represented was just what we talked about earlier. A lot of those old-timers, those 50, 60, 70-somethings, he represented a huge change, a sweeping change.
Well, he was also one of the first to start the political. I mean, look, before us, the Southern Democrats were completely different. They're different people, right? And so as he, came into power and he became, the president, he shifted that party majorly. That party started to shift and change in different ways that a lot of people didn't like, and that right there is enough to piss off. And not only, it was riling up. I mean, like he was going against his own party on a lot of different things.
He represented the birth of the limousine liberal, and a lot of people don't understand. There's a big difference between Lieberman liberals and Kennedy liberals, and it was just a total shift in political thinking. People don't understand. You have Democrats now, like Hillary Clinton, that went out there and they say, I understand what it's like to be poor. Well, Hillary Clinton probably doesn't know what a gallon of milk cost. If you held a gun to her head, she probably has no idea what a gallon of milk cost. And that's a disconnect that happens. But Democrats want to be understood as the party of somebody who's without. And they don't get that. They really don't understand.
No.
At all.
But it's their target demo. I mean,
Right.
from a marketing standpoint, that's what they do for one reason, is because they understand that that's where they're gonna be able to, that's where they're gonna pull their money for their campaigns. That's who they're gonna aim at.
Well, that's why she goes
votes.
on an all-black radio show, and they ask her what her favorite thing she carries is, and she says, "What, Q? Hot sauce."
Yeah, like Beyonce.
Like, do we really believe Hillary Clinton's favorite thing she carries around is hot sauce?
No.
I mean, let's be honest here. It's one of those things. It's old politics trying to play to that old bedrock, and then people like Candace Owens come along, and of course Kanye, and they start breaking those walls down, and they start saying, well, are these white liberals really representing us that are riding around in limos and Mercedes-Benz? Do they really understand what's going on in that community? And we talked about this, Q, even on Suresh's podcast. We got into this. It's a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation. I think Kennedy was such a powerful force that I think you're right. I think there was multiple forces in play.
He was, but he was also connected with a lot of people that were not traditionally connected in the political realm. I mean, obviously, there's everything from Maryland to the mafia to
him buying the election.
Yeah, there's so many facets to his presidency, the short amount of time that he was there, that was really starting to shift the paradigm of what politics was going to become. And it was easier, and it became easier having like an LBJ in rather than having Kennedy, because things just would have been different.
Well, it was that it's what they call the reason that yeah, you're absolutely right. But the reason it triggered that way is it was always called the Boston-Austin connection. You had to have somebody from that New England, New York cut up, and you had to have a Bible Belt guy with them.
Sure.
And that was the way, boom, the marriage happened, and you got all the votes that way.
I mean, to Hans' point, like there's a whole segment of belief that, you know, it could have been a white nationalist kind of deal, because Kennedy was like Hans was saying, he was ready to fast track a lot of race relation type shit.
You think that, Q?
I don't know, just another layer
no,
of the onion.
I think that he realized the power that he had to really get things going quick, and they were moving faster than politics had ever moved at that point in time. And there was, and the one thing that the biggest play that had not been as much of an issue at all prior to Kennedy is the television. And so as we have social media now, I mean, look, I mean, perfect. Another good example is how well, you know, you've got you know, people utilizing Twitter and social media, and they can get the message out quick, and they know how to speak to the people right. And so that's what Kennedy was doing. He had TV, and that's how he beat, you know, Nixon. He killed him, you know, because he was for the first time you saw a guy on TV that could play it up, and he did play it up. And you know, you had a younger demographic. You had a lot more people that were ready to change up a little bit, and they had the power to vote, and they did, and they got him in. And I think as he was moving in a progressive direction, that was definitely going to affect a lot of businesses, a lot of people, a lot of just change in America. That was a lot. That was a lot to be dealing with at that time, and there was no internet, and there was no way. There was just like he wasn't going to get impeached anytime soon. That wasn't going to happen.
And he was probably, you know, one of the other things people discount, he was probably one of the wealthiest families, presidents that we had seen in probably since Hoover, right, Dave? Probably. So he wasn't beholden to money as much.
Dave's like, just stop yelling random shit out at me, man.
Right? I mean, probably since Hoover, right, Dave? Probably one of the wealthier families.
Franklin was the Franklin family's pretty wealthy.
FDR was wealthy, but he wasn't like Hoover Kennedy wealthy, right? Right.
No.
Yeah, Hoover was probably in 50 years we hadn't had a guy in office that like he was just like, I don't need your fucking money.
No, he didn't need it. And the family dynasty that he was a part of. Okay, and that breaks into a whole other.
That's a whole nother.
You know,
can of worms,
is that the dynasty is something that they wanted to. I mean, they're moving it quick. The Kennedys were moving quick down that route with multiple Kennedys coming into different places to start taking over government, which, you know, obviously would dramatically change the course of everything that was happening at that time, and it was going quick. I mean, you went from an Eisenhower generation to the Kennedy generation, which was a huge shift.
It raises another crazy question. I'm going to throw at you at being a marketing guy. Was the Kennedy election the birth of modern marketing?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. I wouldn't.
Yep. You know, I say crazy stuff like I look at the Coke versus Pepsi.
Yep.
You know, deal. I look at that a lot.
Uh-huh.
And that always intrigues me because I love Coke's marketing, and you know, it's something we all come back to as kind of the birth of marketing in our generation, but the Kennedy election for sure.
Oh, well, for sure. I mean, the Kennedy election utilized him as a icon, as a face. They put him everywhere. I mean, like he became they moved away, and you didn't need to have, you know, this dramatic military figure that they had prior to Kennedy, right? So they had somebody that was younger. They had somebody that was good looking. They had somebody that was there that like could represent the country in a way that was very progressive. And
Kennedy became a brand. The name
Kennedy was 100%. It still is a brand.
Well, it was undefeated in Massachusetts for, I think it might even be still undefeated in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts soil, I don't think a Kennedy's ever lost. I think that's still, Q, look that up. I think that's still true. Has a Kennedy ever lost in Massachusetts? I think
Probably
that still
not.
holds weight. They may have lost one, but it's still, I think, was it Patrick or somebody lost, but I think that was in Rhode Island. I think for a long time it was New England, but I think not a Kennedy's lost on Massachusetts soil.
So after Kennedy, put together what he did, you saw how different Richard Nixon came back around, and when he put his campaign together, when he ran and actually won, it was a stark change, and then from that moving forward, that's when all these gigantic, these campaigns became mega campaigns.
Being such a student of history as you are, as I can tell, we got into this, on the phone, even chatting. Does it shock you how far extreme sports has come since you've been involved? Does it surprise you at all where the UFC is and understanding that growth spurt and seeing how much that's changed and how it's accepted it is now?
No, not at all. No, because you got to look at. I look at sports and again, from just the last 100 years and seeing how they've gone. It's just basically this. Humans are going to be the same no matter what. They want to see people doing things that could potentially kill them.
Yeah, I think the steroid era in baseball changed everything.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer that in '98. Yeah. When there was the chase for the home runs, I think a lot of the walls got broken down, the goody walls, and people just wanted to see gladiators.
Well, it's anything you do nowadays, from you're a marketer, you understand this, is that you're doing it for effect. And so when you see, it's very simple to understand that, like, fighters are always going to be, a spectacle that people are going to want to watch. It's just the old saying. Dana said it best years ago. You could have a guy. You could have a basketball game going on in one corner. You could have people playing baseball in the other corner. You could have some track and field going on on the other corner. But a fight breaks out in the other corner. Everyone's running to the fight. Every single person from every single place.
That's a great point.
And everyone wants to see it because you're dealing with an old school, just it's what everyone want. Like, they want to see who's going to win. They want to go and they want to. The combat is always something that we've got ingrained in us. We want to see the two people go for it hard. To the point where there's going to be some drama involved and potentially somebody get really, really, really injured, and that's why they're watching. And that's the thing with it. You track back to extreme sports, it's the same thing. Like, you're not going to be. When you do talk about extreme sports and you talk about, like, skateboarding, people want to see them doing majorly big things that they could break their legs in half or they could get hurt. And if that's what they're doing, that's what's going to track the best and people are going to pay attention to.
Does it surprise you when companies get a little bit away from what got them to the dance? Like, you see, Monster embedded in the UFC and in Fight World. Does it surprise you, like, recently, Dave just wrote an article, NASCAR is stepping away a little bit from guns. Uh-huh. Does that shock you, the kind of evolution of sports moving away from kind of, I always say you dance with the girl you took to the prom. Mm-hmm. Does it surprise you when they start to move away from certain segments at all?
Well, so if you want to, like, if you're using the NASCAR gun, I guess comparison. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think that brands evolve, and when I say brand, sports and the brand, I think all evolve. I don't know, generally speaking, where their consumer is going, and I'm not going to say that. Look, who knows? Maybe they have, like, maybe there's somebody there that has figured out something that we just don't know, right? And that they've seen the older consumer either dying or going away, and this new consumer's coming through, and just through whatever research they figured out that this is where they need to go. Do I think it's right? I'm not certain because I don't work for those companies, but the companies that I do work for, I could tell you that we've dabbled in certain things that were completely out of the realm of what they used to be, and they've failed sometimes. There's probably a bigger failure rate than there is a home run rate, but it also comes down to who's running the program.
Never as big as New Coke, though.
No.
Yeah. So, Q, has a Kennedy lost in Mass? You figure that out? You cracked that code yet? I'm curious.
Why you didn't like
Yeah,
Nico?
me and Dr. Dave were trying to figure it out. It's a little hard to nail down the specifics, but it's looking like that's a no. Looks like you're right, but it's hard to nail it down.
Yeah, I
to,
don't
like,
believe a Kennedy's
Massachusetts
ever
Brown.
lost it. So
You know what I
that
mean?
might be one of the better brands ever created, is the Kennedy brand on New England soil.
Yeah.
I think one lost in Rhode Island. I think it was Patrick, Dave.
You do know my daughter's named Kennedy. Yeah, like that's how deep
so she's named after rich
that's how deep
white
it goes, man.
bootleggers.
Hey man, that's
Irish
who I idolize, man.
Well, that and the
the white bootleggers,
the
man.
royal family is a phenomenal family brand. You know,
Yeah.
I mean that's one that's stand the test of time forever. In fact, do you know their last name?
I do, and I don't know it now off the top of my head. I've read it. It escapes me.
Damn
What
it! I
is
saw it on the History Channel show.
Yeah,
Like
it's passed by me.
damn it!
I don't know it. I'm always curious to figure out if somebody knows it.
Find
I gotta
that.
go to the
Because
Google.
because
to the Google.
it's I know it's Prince Charles of Windsor and it's all these
Yeah,
different
they
things.
get
what is their real last name?
They get like a fake title. Am I right in saying that, Dave? It's like
But what would be on their driver's license or their passport?
Wait, Hans, are you talking about the Kennedy
Right.
family?
No,
No, I'm talking about
the actual royal
I'm talking
family.
about the
okay,
Queen of
'cause
England.
the Kennedy, because that's not even their real.
like they get like
name.
the Earl of Windsor, but they don't really own Windsor. It's an old
Windsor, no.
Yeah.
But it is weird because I've tried to figure it out for so many years and I still can't figure out what their last. I don't know what Prince Charles's last name is.
It's probably like
I don't think they have him. I really don't.
they're like Madonna.
Queen
Kind of.
Elizabeth and the royal family have no last name.
They don't, do they?
Are you serious?
No, I'm looking at they
They're
do
aliens.
not have.
There you go.
They
Why
do
don't they
not-
have a last name?
They're alien. They're alien. So, we have to ask you this because it's been all the buzz in this office. We've been talking about it like crazy, and we're going to get to other stuff, but this is important. Are you shocked at all by what I think is the most viral thing the last 5 years, the Popeyes chicken sandwich?
No.
Does that get you excited?
No.
Have you had a Popeyes?
Are you interested at all?
Have you tasted one?
No.
We have one down the road. We've been filming.
No, I have never had one, and honestly, I'm sorry.
Well, they added pickles.
Oh, that's disgusting.
It's been the most viral, ridiculous thing ever, to the point where other companies like Chick-fil-A are benefiting from it, and it blows my mind because, like, literally Chick-fil-A...
Have you had it?
No, we can't get it. It's sold out. I thought Q would have the inside track.
Wait, what'd you say?
I thought Q would have the inside track to Popeye's chicken.
I need the inside track. I need
thought
that
you'd
in
know
my
someone
life,
on the
Hans.
inside. You fucked us.
I need it.
The biggest thing that blew my mind was when Chick-fil-A came out and said, keep fucking around and we'll open on Sundays. That was like,
Well, I mean, that's one of those things. Come on. I went to Chick-fil-A about a month ago on a Sunday with my son, and it bummed me out. I forgot that they weren't open on
Yeah.
Sundays. I'm like, man, there's nobody here. Wow, look, I would drive it closed. And I'm like, why can't they just be open on Sundays?
now let me ask you, what does viral mean to you? Because you've been in this business so long. What is viral? What is your definition of viral?
Something that gets picked up by multiple. Okay, like obviously it does well in the original stores, right? So I put out a video, and all of a sudden I'm seeing 10 times the amount that I would ever see from anything else I put or post, whatever. Then it starts to get shared in a way that it's going in multiple directions to multiple people that are continuously pushing it out. And then it populates onto larger websites that somehow pick it. Because I've had a couple of these happen to me where you get these big news sources that now picked up your story because they're seeing it with everybody else. And usually it's when
It becomes bigger than your sphere of influence.
yeah, the post now somehow winds up on somebody's, like, on a major social media platform that is a celebrity or somebody that has like countless followers that could push it out even more. And then at the last end tail of it, it ends up somehow on terrestrial TV. And so that's ironically the last of it. That's viral to me.
Is terrestrial TV still a thing, though?
No, I mean, it's there.
Is cable TV dead yet?
I think that it's not dead, but it's struggling to the point where it's on life support. Because you don't need to get news from it anymore. You don't. You could get news from Instagram faster than you could get it from any kind of terrestrial network. You're basically going on. I don't even go on TV anymore. The only reason why I would go on TV is that if I'm bored and I'm just trying to like find a old movie that I would probably never ever want to rent from Apple, movies, and it just shows up.
Is that one of the main reasons you don't see, Monster dedicate any money towards?
We don't. We've done very, very few ads, and one of them was Conor McGregor ad for and it was for the opening season of NASCAR, and we filmed it right down the road, and that was right when he was fighting Mayweather. But we got way more visibility when I just said, "Hey, Connor, can you just put this up on your social media?" It just went everywhere. That's where guys like him can make things go viral. He put up a photo, him and I, before the night before he fought, or the day before he fought Khabib last time he was out here. He put up a thank you post to me for just whatever, for a lot of stuff that I've been working with him since he was a kid. And that thing, that went everywhere for me. And that was a post that, in my mind, a man can make something go viral. One guy, and that was Connor.
Yeah, he was at the top of his game at that point between Mayweather and, the fight with Khabib and just everything he had going on. He was a one-man, viral machine.
Oh, he's still there.
Yeah.
He's still there.
He is still there, but at that point, he was like fire. Everything he touched.
Connor's is an enigma, and whenever he's going to be one of those guys that.
How much of it is an act?
Well, it's not an act. Okay,
it's a gimmick.
It's not a gimmick. It's not a gimmick, and I'll explain how Connor works and what it's about. Is that Connor is a genuine 100%, like he is the person who you think he is. He is a very confident man, and he 110%, when he says he's going to do something, he's going to go and do it. Whether or not it's the result he thinks it's going to be, he's still going to go and do it. Every single thing that he's ever said to me about, from fighting Mayweather to winning multiple world champions to just doing everything he's done, he actually has he said these things to me. He said he was going to do these things, and when I say that it's not an act, is because he really does believe in himself like that. What happens though, and how it comes out and how it's portrayed, is that it escalates, and he feeds off of anything that's like so he's getting ready for a fight, the tensions start, somebody starts on him, he escalates it quick, right? He knows he needs to sell a fight. He gets that part, so he just pushes it forward. But Connor is Connor. If Connor walked into the room today, right now, like just walking in to see us, not only would you feel his presence, but he is with that. He's always the same. He's always on.
Is he the biggest guy you've worked with?
As far
as of following and reach and just scope?
Well, yeah. He currently, yes. I've worked with many large, influence people, but I
hate to call him an
yeah, because I would say the equivalent to Connor that was very similar, and I had exactly. Rampage and I were on a very similar level, right? I worked with Rampage when it was before the UFC. It was before he had any sponsors. It was him and I, and I worked with him, all the way through UFC championships,
making the leap to movies.
Oh yeah, doing the A-Team, all that stuff. I was with him, and then during when Rampage was there was a brief period of time when he was kind of figuring out what he was going to do.
Yeah, the next steps.
Well, there's some other stuff that happened, but I'm not going to bring up that part that deep, but I'll just say this is that I had another athlete that I was introduced to that I knew about, and I knew that there was potential. Nobody wanted to touch him. Nobody wanted to take any kind of risk with him, and I jumped on immediately, and that's Kimbo Slice. And I had Kimbo, and Connor are very similar in that manner. Kimbo was a guy that I had. He completely trusted everything that I kind of directed him to do. I produced all of his apparel. You know, I shot all the original photos of him. Like I did everything I could because I felt it. Like I knew. I get these intuitions with athletes and people that I work with, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling. I could feel that this person has
There's something
the
there.
juice and the drive to make them stand out in a way that's going to push them to the next level. Kimbo was that person, and I you know, I worked with him on his first 3 fights, and I mean, I've never seen that many T-shirts sell in my entire life ever.
Oh, yeah, I'm
you know,
sure.
and
he was as viral as they get at one point.
yes, and so from there, as Kimbo went, and he ended up going his draft, whatever.
He might have been the original viral.
He was, he was the original social viral for sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like all the original fights that were on YouTube were some of the most watched videos ever. You know,
I mean, he helped put YouTube on the map in many ways.
Yes,
I mean, there's no doubt. Let me ask you this, because there's so much shit I want to ask you. It's crazy. Is Instagram dying and is YouTube taking over?
That's an interesting question because I mean, I think there's separate platforms, but and I did this recently as an experiment. And I'm still looking at different ways on how this is going to work, and I don't know how Instagram is going to fix it to make it work better. But I'll just say this, is that Instagram's long format just doesn't work. Instagram TV, IGTV does not work in the way that YouTube does. It doesn't. It can't, and it won't. And I don't know why they can't fix it to make it a little bit more user friendly, so it can have that same effect that YouTube does. But currently, it does not. When it comes to quick, instant gratification, Instagram's still king. Like they haven't been shaken from that yet. But I mean, prior to Instagram, everybody was in Facebook, and everybody had to have their Facebook in a way that was their daily life, right? And prior to Facebook, there was MySpace, and MySpace was the precursor to all of it, to getting us all involved and jumping in this puddle.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I come back to as I say this, I've had this fight with Tony. Tony and I have had this debate. And I pushed him a lot more towards YouTube, and he's doing it.
Yeah.
And Jay and I talked about this a lot off camera too, because Jay's doing a lot with JTV, and he's focusing a lot on YouTube. And I've had the same conversation with Flex, and we'll see what Flex does.
Yeah.
The reason being is, number one, Facebook owns Instagram.
Yes.
Number two, they sequester and suppress a lot of stuff.
100%.
Instagram bets on a bet I'm not willing to take as someone who might potentially be financing, just like you, something. And that bet is how much you're willing to swipe down.
Yes.
And I don't like that bet. What I like is a search bar. Mm-hmm. And YouTube is the second most used search bar behind Google. And the only person that can compete out there, not just with Facebook, but also with Captain Moneybags over there at Amazon, is Google. And Google controls everything on the internet. And I'm willing to place that bet. I'm not saying subscribers on YouTube are better than anything on IG, but I'm willing to say a subscriber on YouTube is worth more.
I think they are, and I'm going to tell you why. I do believe the subscribers on YouTube are dedicated in a way that they're not just seeing the random shit you're putting out. I think that the subscribers for a YouTube channel,
they're seeking you out.
They're really there. I mean, it's like somebody that's like that wanted HBO in their home package. They want to see what you're doing. They're definitely harder to acquire, but the retention on what you do is far superior than what you're going to get on Instagram.
I think on social media we're marching towards a fight that a lot of people don't see yet fully. And I think that fight, as cable TV dies, is going to be subscribers versus followers.
Yes, but the difference is this, is that so for me, from a brand perspective, and just from a brand building perspective, you got to look at it two ways, right? So if you're going to be promoting a product, right, you're going to be promoting a product, or you're just trying to get some like a very like a quick fix photo out to somebody that that just gets them excited and interested, that will get them to your YouTube. That has to happen, because guess what? I mean, people aren't just going to randomly search out your YouTube if they don't know who you are. And the one thing that Instagram has that YouTube doesn't have is that it's easier to, like, I could get to different people. I could follow and find different people on Instagram much easier than I can on YouTube. And the thing is, with YouTube, it's more of a dedicated customer. But once you get them, you really get them. And then you could give them the long format they want, and they're going to watch it. Where you're not, where if you're putting out long format on Instagram TV, on IGTV, it's just not going to be the same effect, and you're not going to get the same result that you would ever get on YouTube.
Interesting.
And so another thing too is this is just from my perspective of what's worked for me, is that anything that I produce on, I mean, if I actually go out, and I tell this because I work with a lot of a lot of directors and producers that, like, and they'll want to work with me and try to film something. And this does work for Tony, right? Because he produces pieces, right? He produces content for IG but he's very disciplined in a way that he'll put out his pieces, and then you got to wait for the next one a week later, or like 5 days later, 4 days, whatever. Where I'm different. For me, I'm putting out pieces that, like, I'm belting them out like 2 to 3 a day. So
I know where you're going. There's guys who do the here and now, and I try to do a balance of the here and now, and then there's kind of like the setup pieces.
Yeah.
And Tony likes to put out there, he'll do some, you can pick out the here and now, and he'll do a lot of, like, I want to give you insight into this workout or this training. And it's more produced than it is, organic. You could pull and see kind of like what he's done that's real and on the phone and now versus that. And there's people that do both. There's people that do both successfully. And one's not, I don't want to say better.
Yeah, it just fits for the person. I mean, again, for me, using me as a reference point, because it took me, when we dissolved, when we all left Osiris, all of us that were executives at our footwear brand, that we saw the biggest and most insane demise of a successful company, like, within a matter of months. It was the saddest thing ever. But it also forced me to push myself and brand myself and build my online character in a hyperdrive, because I never want to get stuck in a situation like that again. Because we had a lot of competitors that came in way later than us. I mean, you know what it's similar to is that, like, we had the opportunity to just be an online, like, to take some of our retailers and just go online with Osiris. We should have done that. We didn't do it. We were too scared because we thought we were going to piss off all the brick and mortars that ended up fucking going out of business anyway.
Right.
We didn't do it, and so that was it. And then so when we tried to do it later on in the game, it didn't work as well. But I also was I didn't go and build my brand profile as a marketing / businessman until really last year. And the reason why is that a lot of my peers and the people that I had, worked with, they're all in their 50s and 60s, and they're very against it. They're very against, unless
personal brand building,
but more like, hey, look, if the Wall Street Journal is going to come do a story on you, we'll talk about it, let's do it, and then let's all do it structurally. So we're putting out a very articulated, well thought out, planned message, right? Which to me is not what anyone wants to read anyway now. And so none of us, so a couple of us, well, the two younger of us that were the executives of this brand, like, we missed this opportunity. The older guys didn't even have social media. They didn't believe in it. They thought it sucked and it wasn't going to be around. Whatever. They didn't do it. Brian Reed and I, we did do it, and we did it hard, but we also turned down opportunities to grow our personal brands that would have put us in a way different category.
Yeah, it's crazy because you're a little bit older than me. So I always fought, I very early on branded my own name to a lot of things, because I just, I saw it more as, look, I'm going to put this out there, and if people like it, they'll look at it. If they don't, they won't. It wasn't something to me where I felt it conflicted with the existing brands, and I think that those walls are down, I guess, now.
Well, I mean, I've had companies that I've associated, and I have actually I've done, I do work for, that were very against me doing anything like that, and actually utilizing their brand or being a part of it, any of that stuff. Yeah, it's changing. It's rapidly changing right now, because I think they also realize that, like, if they're going to be losing out on, I mean, I have over 100,000 people now that are paying attention to what I'm doing, and so
There's a benefit.
There's a huge benefit, and because they want to hear and they want to see and they want to be a part of what I'm doing. And if you say so, from a brand perspective, if you go, well, we don't want you, we don't want you including our brand. You could do whatever you want to do on your own. Just don't include anything we're doing. You just missed out on all this marketing you could have, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a balance. I think you just have to work with like-minded people, and you have to be around like-minded peers in whatever company it is you're working with that understand, hey, look, I don't need to filch from the brand, but I can support it in a different way personally that I think can contribute to the greater good. It doesn't have to be something that's kept in the closet, like, oh yeah, you know, I work at Goldman Sachs, but I'm not going to tell anybody because it's
no. I did though. I mean, I had to go through that, and it was a difficult thing for me. And now, you know, I just, you know, I mean, it kind of pushed and empowered me to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to build this thing. I'm doing it the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to be very cognizant on the content that I put out and the people that, you know, follow me, because I want to retain them. I don't want to be a freak show and then all of a sudden they just split on me, right? I want them to hear my message. I want them to be a part of what I'm doing so that they move with me and they grow with me. And then I've got a dedicated base and following and fan group that normally somebody in my position would never have. It just doesn't make any sense. But now, you know, you got mega guys like Gary and, you know, I mean, Grant and all these guys that go out there and they sell marketing and they sell sales through their social media. And that to me is like, well, okay, if they're doing it, why wouldn't I do it?
Right. You know, it makes total sense. We got to go shoot some guns soon, but I want to, you know, so much. I'm going to get you back in here. So let me ask you this. With all that being said, what has been kind of one of the, you've been through so much and seen so much, what has been one of the more exciting, either whether it's people you've worked with or exciting moments that you kind of like pinch yourself and you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I mean, anything Conor related has been like that.
Wild.
You know, I mean, like I said, I mean, I shot Conor McGregor on the beach in Los Angeles maybe 5 years ago, and not one person knew who he was on the beach. Imagine this, Los Angeles on the beach. With no one knowing who he is. If I brought Conor McGregor to Los Angeles on the beach right now, there would be riots. You know what I mean? And in that point in time, like, he didn't have any, it was just him and D. And it was just, you know, we're out there, and he actually thought he could drive from Los Angeles to Miami. He's like, can we just drive there? Isn't it in a couple hours? I mean, he was so clueless on all this stuff at that time. Yeah. He had never traveled. He didn't know anything. He was such a, and he still is. He was such a grateful person in the position he is in. Yes, Conor makes mistakes just like everybody else. I mean, he's like he's a kid from Crumlin that got, you know, a ton of money real fast, and that doesn't change the mindset that he's already, you know, it built into his head. I mean, he is still that kid, but he's a very good man, and I will never. I mean, I will defend him, you know, like I defend any of my athletes. If you're a part of what I do, and if there's a very strong correlation of athletes that have been with me for a very long time, I will defend them and I will keep them around me and I will help them as long as I can. No matter, I don't care if you win, I don't care if you lose. I care about the content of your character and how you can work with me so we could together brand build not only them as athletes, but the brands that we represent together. And that's just it, is that to me is the teamwork that builds these cool companies and these cool teams that makes people want to be a part of it.
What advice, let me ask you this before we kind of get close to wrapping, what advice would you give someone starting out that says, geez, you know, I would love to work with the brands this guy represents? Because I asked Bruce the same thing with Quest, and you know, he's with Quest and Blackwater, and he said, you know, he goes, I would tell them to follow me around. Find me at a show. If you pack your bags and follow me around the show.
No, don't follow me around. I don't want you to follow me around.
What advice would you give?
I would say this, is that, look, and I give this advice to anybody because I get hit up on a daily basis. People want to either, you know, like they want an intern, you know, they want to, I want to
get around it.
This is what I get every single day. You're so lucky. I wish I had your job. I'm like, okay, well, you don't even know what my job is, first of all. And second, you know, I think that you have to take a very hard look at what I'm doing and what you want to do. If you just want to be around cool people and cool athletes and go to cool events, Well, you know what? That's just maybe 5% of what I do. You're only seeing a snippet of it.
Yeah.
Of your, I too am a marketer. I'm going to show you the highlights that I want to show you. The truth of the matter is that 95% of the stuff that I have to do in making these things work aren't glamorous, and they're definitely not sexy, and it's not fun to do. Those really late nights. I mean, like I've been on the road for 6 days straight. You know, I'm married, I got 2 kids, and now it's not easy to be able to maintain a life that like has you traveling and moving around as much. With the advent of social media, it's become even worse because basically, well, not, let me retract that back. Is that with the advent of technology from the aliens that gave it to us back in the 50s, it's made it so that that anyone can get to me at any time, and they basically like can call me or text me or need something, and if I don't get back to them in 5 minutes, for some reason that escalates. That escalates into something that like is a much bigger deal than it really is. So what I would say is this: it's very simple. Is that you need to pick out the industry you want to work in first, right? And then you need to start from the bottom and work your way up. And you have to pay your dues. You got to pay your dues, and you got to put your work in. I started, in action sports. I started at the bottom of the bottom, stocking, and I started at a surf and skateboard shop, starting like doing every single piece of grunt work I can do. Anything they needed, anything they wanted done, I did. And I just did it all the way through up. I worked my way up. Next thing you know, I'm on the floor. Next thing you know, I'm selling things. Next thing you know, I'm a buyer buying the skateboards and the apparel for the shop, because I had been there long enough to know what was working, what wasn't working. Then from there, I learned how, to become a better salesman that would move me outside of that position to a company now, right? And then so as I'm looking to go, do I want to go the sales route or do I want to go the marketing route? Well, I chose the marketing route, which was even harder to get into because there's less money and more competition. So the only way that happened was that I did the same thing, is that I said, hey, look, I'll help do sales.
I'll hold the camera equipment.
Well, no, I mean, this really went down. Is I'll do the sales. You don't have to pay me for sales. I'll be a salesman. You don't have to pay me for sales, but I just want to work in marketing too. And that meant like doing anything that the team needed, anything. And that escalated from that to becoming, a team manager, which is basically means that I'm taking care of all the athletes, making sure they got their boxes, making sure that they got everything's the same stuff I do right now. And then I went from that to, hey, we need some product shot. We need some catalog photo shot. We need some action photo shot. I need you to go work with this photographer to go get this done. So I would go and I would help the photographer out. And I started realizing, I could shoot these things myself too. Hey, well, would you guys invest in giving me a camera if I go, look, get me a camera. I will shoot everything. It will take me a little bit of time. I swear I'll figure out how to use it. And I did. I went to the bookstore and I bought like 30 different books on how to shoot photos. I talked to people. I did my research. I learned and became a photographer. And that led me into the marketing role I was in. T-shirt designs need to be done, right? This was an apparel company I worked for, so they needed T-shirt designs. Well, T-shirt designs also cost money. You have to pay a designer to design T-shirts for you. Well, hey, look, can I work on some designs? I'm very artistic. I've done some T-shirt designs in the past. Can I submit some of my own stuff? I would sit there, work till 3 a.m. on T-shirt designs, and out of the 40 T-shirt designs that were going up on the wall, 5 of them were mine. So those 5 T-shirt designs now that got stuck in the line, 2 of them were grand slams. You know what? Hey, can you do some more T-shirt designs? Now I'm doing T-shirt designs. Now I'm doing photography. Now I'm managing athletes. Now I'm becoming a marketing man.
Make yourself indispensable.
So you need to be able to be a 360 asset to any company that you're at. And you can't just go in there expecting that you're going to be able to hang out with pro people and just be that guy that's going to be sitting at any event taking a photo with them because you're cool. That's not how I got where I got. I got where I got because I worked my ass off, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to go to the end of the earth to make sure that brand gets what it needs, and I don't fail, and I don't let people down, and I stay no matter what till the job is done. You know, so in a world of people wanting to get this instant gratification and thinking that because if they're going to, you know, they're going to follow somebody around or they're going to be around somebody that's going to happen for them, they still need to figure out how to utilize all the tools to go where they need to go. I can't just pick up one of your weapons and pretend that I'm going to be able to be some super operator that's going to be able to go and do some defense work for somebody. That's just not going to happen.
You could, but with video coming in now, you'd be exposed. Just like anything else.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
You know.
It's crazy. No, it's well said. I mean, you know, it goes without saying, I could spend 2 more hours with you talking about this stuff. Because
well, I'll be back soon. We can keep on going.
Yeah. We went 90 minutes. Q, I think we hit everything. I want to get Hans shooting. I want to get him shooting some guns. I want to get over to the range. I had an awesome time. I mean, this is a blast. I mean, my mind is going in 100 directions. But I had a lot of fun chatting with you, and I really would love to have you back in to do a follow-up to talk more stuff.
Anytime.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I want you to shout out your brands where people
Well, I'm
going to
do this
you.
first.
Yeah,
I'm going to as you continue.
Yeah, I want to have you shout out your brands where people can find you. There it is. Q's pulling up now.
That's it. That's all that matters right there. Just go to that.
So I had such a
right
blast, and I can't thank you enough for coming down. It's been, you know, a huge eye-opening experience getting able to get in your head and get some insights and get some understanding of what's going on. You know, you got a great story, Hans.
Thank you.
It's one of those things we haven't even scratched the surface, and I look forward to having you back in. And just what you've accomplished and what you've done is definitely something a lot of folks can look at and say, you know, you're absolutely right. Start at the bottom, work your ass off, get in a position that you can be successful, put successful people around you, and good stuff will happen. And you know, it's a message that everybody definitely should take in, especially in a sports genre that you're in, where people struggle so hard to make a living and find a way to make a living. You know, I'm around the gyms, I'm around the mats. There's guys, everyone thinks they're going to be a pro and make $1 million. And it's, you know, you want to tell them, you better have a plan B, you know, you better have a backup plan. And, you know, it's just one of those things, but I can't thank you enough for coming down.
Well, I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to come on a very cool thing like this.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you love the studio and love it here at K-Var.
It's very, very cool.
We're going to get you to the range. We're going to do some shooting, and I want to thank K-Var. Everyone head over to kvar.com. Make sure you check out the website.
Thank you, K-Var.
And make sure, I think I thanked everyone. Thank you, Q. Take us out.
We out.